What's up, Warriors fans? It's your main man Max here with Warriors Latest. And after this weekend, we got a lot to talk about when it comes to Dub Nation. Now, aside from the NBA Finals, the hottest topic that's being discussed around the league is none other than Kevin Durant. Now, these discussions have revolved around what teams are interested in him, what are some potential packages that can be put together in order to meet Phoenix's asking price to acquire Durant, and what is the best overall fit for Durant moving forward. Now, out of all the places that are interested in him, the Warriors still make the most sense as they are the closest to title contention. As he fits their timeline, he fits their needs, and he fits the offense perfectly, having already won 2 championships playing under Steve Kerr during his first tour of duty with the Warriors. Now, when it comes to the other teams outside of the Warriors that are in competition to acquire Durant, the two most talked about teams are the Rockets and the Spurs. Now, both the Rockets and the Spurs can offer a combination of young players and draft picks. However, for the Spurs, Durant may not push them to that title contention level. And if you're the Spurs, do you want to sacrifice long-term gains for short-term solutions? The answer is no, as Durant going to San Antonio will likely make them a playoff contender, but very unlikely make them a championship contender, as the team is still very young outside of Durant. And on top of that, Durant will likely cost the team Steph Castle, Devin Vassell, along with multiple draft picks. And are any of those players going to be better than Durant? No, but they're going to come close to it and be good either as starters, all-stars, or in a very good supporting role. And any future draft picks, they could potentially become stars. And in terms of the Rockets had a very great run this year. They were the number 2 seed going into the playoffs and were able to push the Warriors and their heavily experienced roster 7 games before they lost Game 7 at home. Now, for the Rockets, they're the more compelling case, as they are closer to title contention than the Spurs. However, if you're going to make a big trade where you're offering a king's ransom for a superstar player, you want this superstar player to play for your team more than 3 years. So Durant doesn't really make much sense regardless of the asking price. Now, for Phoenix, what they want out of the Rockets are their own 2 future draft picks, which is understandable as Phoenix acquired those draft picks from the Nets in exchange for the Nets' own draft picks that the Nets traded to the Rockets in exchange for James Harden. Now, the Nets got the draft picks from Phoenix for Kevin Durant originally. But they just want to sort of reset and continue to be competitive, which is understandable. However, if I'm the Rockets, I look at that and I say, no, I'm good. I want to trade for a star that's going to give me a lot of years moving forward and really turn me into a continuous title contender. And the only player that really does it for that is Giannis Antetokounmpo if he becomes available. And if he doesn't, the Rockets' best move is to stand pat and allow their players to develop and continue to get better and get playoff experience moving forward. They have a very deep roster and a very athletic roster and a very big roster. They should continue to keep their own players and develop them on their own. Now, another team that's been mentioned in terms of acquiring Durant has been the Minnesota Timberwolves, which I personally thought was a surprise, because the Timberwolves were good on their own as they're a great roster 1 through 5, with Conley at the 1, Ant at the 2, McDaniels at the 3, Julius Randle at the 4, and Rudy Gobert at the 5. Now, the biggest issue with the Timberwolves acquiring Durant is they don't really have the draft capital to acquire him. They traded 4 future unprotected first-round picks for Rudy Gobert, really depleting any chance they had of getting drafting future players and at least making another big trade. On top of that, Naz Reid and Julius Randle are both free agents come July 1st. So their biggest order of business is bringing both of them back and not letting another teams steal them from under their nose. And after back-to-back appearances in the conference finals, I believe that the Timberwolves' best option is to stand pat and continue to grow as a unit as they are a very good team that can compete with the best of them. Yes, they did have trouble with the Thunder, but Ant is only going to get better. They don't need Durant in order to push them over the top. They can continue to get better and develop their young players in order to become a full-blown championship contender. Now, the final team that I've heard that's interested in Durant is obviously the most compelling case to really give the Warriors competition in terms of acquiring him. Because the Knicks can offer probably the most competitive package to the Warriors in terms of players that are ready to play now. Now, they can't offer a lot of draft capital as they traded all their draft capital away for Mikal Bridges last summer. Now, it remains to be seen if that was a good trade or not, but my money says the Knicks made the right move in acquiring Mikal Bridges, as he is a great defensive player and an Iron Man player, having not missed a game in his entire career. Now, the Knicks can offer a combination of OG Anunoby, Mitchell Robinson, Tyler Kolek, who is a great young point guard prospect who is signed for multiple years down the road, and Deuce McBride, who is a great player off the bench for the team. Now, that is a very compelling offer, but the one thing the Warriors have going for them is the Knicks don't have a head coach right now, and that's really playing to their advantage, as until the Knicks get a head coach, all major moves for the team go on the back burner, which means for the Warriors, timing is everything. Now, negotiations for Kevin Durant are really going to heat up come draft night. Now, maybe the Rockets and the Spurs say, hey, we want to make you a certain offer, and maybe the Suns lower their asking price as they are looking to move out of the second apron so they can do a little more maneuvering on the free agent market to continue to improve as a team. Now, the likelihood of that happening, I would give it a 40-60 chance. 44-60 against those happening, but it's still a possibility. Like the saying goes, you hit 400, you're in the Hall of Fame. But I'm not counting on it. Now, the biggest timing thing is definitely the Knicks. Now, should they find their head coach by draft night, there's going to be some serious decision making being made in the draft room, as they don't have a first round pick, but they're looking to improve their roster on what they had. And OG Anunoby isn't exactly a fit anymore with the new Knicks, as he was a really big Tibbs guy, being a defensive-minded player. However, the Knicks do need a third scorer on top of Karl Anthony Towns and Jalen Brunson, who really did a lot of the work in terms of the offense, but a third scorer would really put them over the top and get them that title that they've been seeking for a number of years. But that's all dependent on if they find a coach or not. So the Warriors' best chance is to start negotiations on draft night. Now, they can't make a trade until after July 1st, as the centerpiece for any Durant trade is going to be Jonathan Kuminga. Now, along with Kuminga, the Warriors are likely going to have to gut their roster, as well as offer future unprotected picks in order to bring in Durant. Now, any trade for Durant for the Warriors is probably going to look like Kuminga, Pods, Buddy Hield, along with Moses Moody. Now, those are four great players right there to go along with a draft pick or two. And it's not going to be a protected draft pick. It's going to be an unprotected draft pick. And that can't happen until the new league year begins. But the draft is a great way to start the conversation and hopefully keep the other teams from acquiring him, as negotiations could get deep, as they were close to the finish line for a trade deadline deal, but it didn't get there because Durant didn't want to move mid-season again after having done it with Brooklyn going to Phoenix 2 years prior. And he has said on Draymond Green's podcast that he's open to a reunion with the Warriors, which is great for Dub Nation, as he's going to be that guy. Now, bottom line is Durant and the Warriors are a hand-in-glove fit. Their championship window ends after the 26-27 season, and Durant really gives them that opportunity to maximize that core until they have to do a complete rebuild, and Steph and Draymond and Jimmy and probably Durant himself retire and call it a career. And Durant is that solidified 3-point shooter that they were missing in the second round of the playoffs after Steph went down. They didn't have a certified bucket getter, and it was extremely frustrating to watch because the Warriors couldn't hit water falling out of a boat outside of just attacking the basket. And that's just not going to work if the Warriors do want to maximize their title window and at least win one more for Steph and give him his fifth ring. And on top of that, Durant could get his third ring. Now, again, the Warriors may have to gut their roster in order to get Durant, but luckily they will find players on the free agent market that can fill out the roster because they do want to win a title and they do want to be competitive. Durant knows this offense as he's been successful in it before, and I have no doubt that the Warriors are going to acquire Durant and he's going to lead them to the promised land once again. Because it's not the team with the best players that wins the NBA championship, it's the team with the players that play the best together that win the NBA championship. And for Warriors Latest, I'm your main man, Max, and as always, go Dubs.